All right, what I'd like to do is a quick video that looks at, in this case, two concepts, big concepts that are very important for this class that in the past students have had just a little bit of difficulty with, and always like for me to expand on it a little more. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this in the textbook. It's on page 11. It's the transactional communication model. Maybe my reference is a little dated, but I also refer to this as the Stewie Griffin model because to me it looks a lot like Stewie from Family Guy. All right. I just want to make sure that everybody understands some of the concepts that are going on here. Where to start? Okay, so in communication, let's just look at two communicators. People used to think of it as a speaker and a listener. And what's important to realize is that you see how the arrow, the orange arrow, has it's a two-sided arrow, which means that it's not like a tennis game where one person serves a message over the net and then the other person serves it back. A person is sending a message and receiving a message at the same time. We have to get past the idea that communication means talking, using our voice. Okay? Because as I'm saying something to you, you might be smiling, you might be looking confused, you might be looking upset. And so while you are receiving the message that I'm sending, you are also sending a message back to me. So that is a huge concept that's important to realize. One of the things, two things, but we'll say one thing that gets in the way of communication is this concept of noise. And noise can be a lot of different ideas. The one that we usually think of has to do with you're talking to someone and someone's doing construction with jackhammers next door, so you can't hear. So that's a physical noise. There's also the idea of what we might call like more of a psychological noise. It's something that's internal, like you have an important test coming up and a friend is trying to tell you about a movie that they saw and you can't really focus because the noise in your head is getting in the way. Okay. Another very important concept that impacts our ability to communicate clearly with others is this concept of environment. And again, the idea, usually when we think of environment, we think of where we are. You know, I don't know. If you happen to be, let's say you're talking to someone on the phone and you are in a high school cafeteria that's very noisy. You see how that can and the other person is not, that can have an impact. So that idea of environment we understand, but the concept of environment is very multi-layered because what it says, environment refers to personal experiences and cultural backgrounds that participants bring to a conversation. So I always like to use the example of, I might say to someone, was your high school a big high school or a small high school? And someone will say, oh, my high school was big. And I say, oh, how many people? And they say, oh, well, there were 100 people in my graduating class. And someone else says, 100 people. There were 200 people in mine. And someone else says, there were 500 people in mine. So we each think how do I want to say this? Our experiences have caused us to see the world in a certain way. And that's the idea of environment. Okay, that's part of the idea. And on page 13 in the text, it really, I think, does a good job of explaining how person A and person B can be in very different environments. One person's tired, the other person's not. But if we go back to that idea of one person saying they went to a big high school, another person saying they went to a smaller high school. An idea in the transactional model of communication is that meanings exist in and among people. So yes, we can go to the dictionary and look up the word big, but it means something different. Another idea is if it's the end of the semester and I say, you know what, let's all go out and have a meal, and someone says we need to go to some place that's not expensive. Each of us has in our mind what we mean by not expensive. You might be thinking the dollar menu at McDonald's, and someone else might say, oh, Five Guys is not too expensive. Okay, so if you're interested in this idea that meanings exist in and among people, there's a video that I would encourage you to watch. It's in the other folder, and it's Super Bowl 2015 Always ad. Okay, so the next concept, and this is going to be important because this is the topic of our discussion, is looking at the difference between impersonal communication and interpersonal communication. And the idea is, okay, the key word here is continuum. So that there are very few absolutes. It's not absolutely impersonal or absolutely interpersonal. But the idea is for communication to be more towards the right-hand side of this arrow and more interpersonal. It's that the conversation you're having with someone is unique, that it's not a conversation that you have with everybody. It's not like the cashier at the grocery store saying, well, what's the usual question? How are you? Did you find everything okay? Do you have any coupons? Do you need help out to the car? Those kinds of questions. Okay, that the cashier says to everybody. That would be much more towards the impersonal. Another aspect, another feature is interdependence. That the people are connected. They depend on each other. And again, I don't want to keep picking on people at the grocery store, but that's an example of, saying to that person, hey, how are you? Unless you go to that grocery store every day and you go to the same cashier, you probably don't feel a sense of connectedness with that person. Whereas if you're saying to a family member, you're having a conversation, that's more interpersonal. Another feature is self-disclosure, which we will talk about much more in Chapter 4, the idea that you share information about yourself. It doesn't have to be your deepest, darkest secret, but you tend not, when you feel closer to people, when your relationship is more interpersonal, you're going to disclose more. And the last one has to do with intrinsic rewards. We definitely talk about this more, and I think it's Chapter 10, the idea of rewards. But you get something out of the relationship. And I'm not talking money and flowers and chocolates kind of a thing. But you feel, in a sense, you feel good when you've had a conversation with this person because the relationship is fulfilling in some ways. Okay, so important concepts here. It's not an all or nothing. It is on a continuum, and the idea that sometimes even people that we would say we have a highly interpersonal relationship with, our communication can be highly impersonal. If you've ever gotten home and, I don't know, my husband would come home from work and I'd say, hey, how was your day? Honestly, sometimes I really wasn't listening to the answer. I just knew that I needed to say, hi, how was your day? And other times I really wanted the answer. So those were the two big issues that I wanted to make sure that everyone understood. And let me know if you have questions.